Vaporwave. We all know what it is by now. And if you don't, a quick search on YouTube will most likely bring you to a thumbnail of some statue in some never-ending black and pink checkerboarded room. Click the video and you'll find this creepy droning song, a slowed-down Diana Ross sample. If you're still confused, many videos on YouTube will give you this detailed analysis of what Vaporwave is, some with more sarcasm than others, but today I've decided to give my take on more specific topics Vaporwave has created for myself and for the large and ever-growing community it has taken a hold on. So if you don't know what Vaporwave is at all, for the love of God, just turn this video off and go outside. Anyway, take what you want from it, but to many people, Vaporwave has provided this almost final frontier of music, in a world where everything seems as easy as a click of a button to achieve. Want a new song? Just look it up. Need something shipped immediately? Just make a couple fake Gmail accounts and sign up for a free trial of Amazon Prime. The significance of discovering or achieving something these days has become obsolete, scarce, and meaningless, due to the abundance of material we are given extremely easy access to, which brings up a major irony of Vaporwave in itself, its overabundance of the songs the Vaporwave catalog has to offer. Yes, Vaporwave seems confusing, and even to most of its die-hard fans of the genre, an extreme irony of itself they can't even answer. By aimlessly searching for more songs in the genre, aren't we just adding to the notion of rinse and repeat? Why earn something when I could just quickly search for it and get my mini dopamine rush from the eerie yet soothing sounds of Vaporwave goodness? Yet, there is one thing Vaporwave is most certainly sure about, and that is the ability for it to invoke nostalgic feelings of a time you might not have even been a part of. Or if you have, romanticize it completely into this false narrative wounded by colors that paint some world riddled by mediocre technology that wasn't even really that good, and juiced up memories from the syringe that is Vaporwave itself. We use Vaporwave to falsely reawaken ourselves to times in our lives where we were younger and hopeful about a future where people were more closer and real to one another. We use the music to background mental holograms of past events we escaped to in our minds as being better than they were, or sometimes maybe even worse than they were. Well, that brings me to my discussion point today. There's one event I have experienced in my life that I always relate to as the pinnacle of mental thought and remembrance when it comes to sitting down and listening to some good old Vaporwave, and that is 9/11.
More than 40,000 people work there, and on any given day, more than 100,000 business and leisure visitors come to the World Trade Center.
Evidence, Elliot, of people being taken out of the building. You say that emergency vehicles are...
Oh my gosh, another plane has just hit.
From the just grainy enough early 2000s television quality to the eerie unknowingness the cheerful news reporters had just before the attacks begin, September 11th, 2001 will always be a day in my mind that I'll remember and think about for the rest of my life. I actually lost my uncle that day, a hard-working employee of the infamous financial services firm Cantor Fitzgerald. It's been 16 years later, and I've pretty much fully, along with my family, moved on from the event. Yet, I still find myself every once in a while binge-watching videos of the attacks, from researching different angles of the plane hitting the tower, to the gradual change of a happy Tuesday morning news reporter transforming into this fearful narrator of the events, blind in their voices and miraged by the sights they saw. I just can't look away sometimes. I mean, it's amazing, really, that all of that really could have happened. 2 gigantic towers just gone in a matter of about 100 minutes. I, and I'm sure you can as well, go on for about hours about your thoughts, beliefs, and just overall attitude towards the events that took place that day. But today, I'm here to explain on the weird connection Vaporwave has made me feel about September 11th. Whenever I think of the past, I always pinpoint 9/11 as being that hit in the timeline that transitioned how I viewed the world. It's almost as if all these romanticized times I remember from being a kid, they just seem to halt as soon as I remember that event happening. It not only killed thousands of people, but changed how our country operated on a cultural scale. We became more powerful, more prideful, boastful and cautious, and less free-spirited of a nation onward. I mean, I can't really blame us, 2 gigantic-ass jets just flying into New York City, but there is an undisputable truth in the concept that we all crossed this subconscious dimensional barrier once that second plane made contact. This correlates into my relationship with why I listen to Vaporwave. The music is one part, but answering questions I have about that pastime we all seem to miss so much is another thing Vaporwave sort of does for me. 9/11 was the turning point, the time where all these bright colors I remember seeing as a child in the world around me, they just disappeared. Everything after the second tower fell was the beginning of this new age I, and the world around me, began to live in. But what about the period of time during the attacks? Those 100 minutes that changed our lives. This year on 9/11, many of you might think this is kind of strange, but I actually tried a little experiment myself as I was sitting at my office. When the clock struck 8:45 this year on September 11th, which is the exact time the first plane hit, I clicked play on a YouTube video of a news channel that broadcasted the minute-by-minute news broadcast of the events. As I was listening to the broadcast, I put on the album News at 11, and I let that play in the other headphone, so I kind of had a little bit of both going on at the same time. In one ear, I had the broadcast, and in the other ear, I had the infamous Vaporwave album. For anyone who doesn't know the album News at 11, it is a highly praised album in the Vaporwave community, known for replicating the sounds, feelings, and nostalgia of the events that very day. Luckily, it was a pretty slow grind at the office that day, so I had the opportunity to let myself go mentally and try to soak in all the sounds that were coming from my headphones. I then slowly found myself begin to feel as if I was an actual employee that day in some Manhattan crammed skyscraper, not knowing the severity of the events around me. Minute by minute, I relived the events I once did as a child looking at a television screen, but now as some pseudo-employee on the billionth floor of some Manhattan law firm safe within the confines of his own cubicle. Pretty fucking weird, right? But to me, it was kind of life-changing. It was almost like a real Oculus Rift, a real-life virtual reality simulator, if that even makes sense. Eventually, the Vaporwave kicked in. Around the 9:40 a.m. mark, when people and reporters were panicking in one end of my headphones, the soothing, smooth Weather Channel jazz of News at 11 fought back in the other ear. Two different dimensions, reality and romanticism, at war. And then, before you know it, it was 11:30 a.m. The news reporter still stumbling for words in one ear, while some other Vaporwave album that automatically started to autoplay in my other ear. I kind of forgot about any of it actually happening at that point, and it almost seemed like it was this calm after the storm. I eventually realized I had to take my hour lunch break, so I threw my headphones off and instantaneously just returned to the real world. So why did I come on YouTube to tell my story? I'm not really sure, to be honest. I'm a pretty lazy person when it comes to creating things from beginning to end, so I'm surprised I even made this video myself. I guess it's just a topic I've always been interested on, both Vaporwave and 9/11 itself. Both topics I don't really understand why I'm so interested in and driven to. So maybe I'd like to hear from some of you as well. What does Vaporwave connect you to? How do you interpret the 9/11 attacks as an older, wiser man or woman? Is it scarier now or easier to remember? And are we wrong with constantly searching through our past to find the answers to the present day? So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. This is my first YouTube video I've ever made, so the editing might be a little off. I mean, the overall concept of discussion might be a little confusing as well. Maybe I just didn't tackle on the right points or, explain myself well enough. But that being said, please, critique me as much as you can. I would love some hard feedback on what I can do to make my videos better, and I would also love to continue these type of videos. And if you have any ideas for any other types of topics or concepts or discussion pieces we could talk about, Vaporwave or any sort of music, please feel free to let me know in the comments or anything, and I would just love to keep this going. So thanks for watching.